Welcome to Consider This with Big Joe Clark. Joe is a certified financial planner with more than 28 years of experience in the financial services industry. He serves as the managing partner of the Financial Enhancement Group, LLC, and also taught financial planning at Purdue University for 7 years. The Financial Enhancement Group is an SEC-registered investment advisory firm based in Indiana with more than $200 million in assets, serving clients in more than 20 states. Indiana offices are located in Anderson, Fishers, Lafayette, and Rensselaer, as well as Sonoma County, California. This show is for educational purposes, and you're strongly encouraged to consult your advisor regarding your individual issues and opportunities. Joe can be reached at 800-928-4001. You can find more information about Joe and the Financial Enhancement Group at yourlifeafterwork.com. Enjoy the show, and remember to consider this.
Well, good morning and welcome to Consider This. I'm Joe Clark.
I'm Sherry Contos.
And so happy to have you along. Hope you're enjoying this wonderful weekend.
What? The past weekend?
Well, there was that Patriot issue.
Oh, my gosh.
You know, I felt so bad for the vice president on TV, that, because he got to attend to the game.
Yeah.
And Vice President Pence is a tremendous Colts supporter.
Of course.
And he did say that, but he said he was just going to the game, not rooting for anybody. But here's what, I would have told my buddy. I would have said, hey, if you are a Colts fan, you are not cheering for the Patriots.
Well, no.
But here's what we like on Consider This. Anybody who can come back from that loss. I mean, it showed a great amount of character and charisma. And I know, Sherry, you don't agree, nor does my wife.
Sorry.
We don't have to give them anything.
Nothing.
But the reality is that they did very, very well. And you've got to stick to your game. And one of the things that we talk about on this show, my friend Ed Slott, he was the IRA guru of gurus, right? And if you don't know anything about IRAs, let me put it to you this way. I'm a certified financial planner. I've been in the industry for 29 years. I've taught at Purdue for 7 years, 14 semesters as an adjunct professor, and I go twice a year to spend 3 days of my life reading nothing but private letter rulings about IRAs because they are that difficult. When I sit down with my CPAs, my friends that are in the industry, they spend a phenomenal sum of money on technical research, and when you get to the IRA part, it essentially says, consult a professional, right? But here's what Ed says, and it goes hand in hand with where we were last night. Ed says it doesn't matter what the score is at the halftime. It doesn't matter what the score is at the end of the third quarter.
Clearly
it only matters what the score is at the end of the game. And regardless of how much money you have inside of your 401k, how much money you have inside of your IRAs, if you do not have a game plan to get that money out, so that the scoreboard goes off, the firecrackers are popping, and they're going in your direction of happiness, it doesn't matter how much you have, you're going to wind up in a bad day. So Sherry and I are going to talk about 4 things on today's show. We're going to talk about, number 1, blended families. There is a high divorce rate in Indiana. We need to talk about that, understand what that means for people. We are going to talk about not all beneficiaries being equal.
Yeah.
We're going to use some Drucker analogies to talk about supervising your 401k. How do I efficiently... Peter Drucker.
Okay.
Yeah. How do I efficiently manage the 401k? Of course, for those of you that are listening, we're going to have What Says Joe in Sherry's segment, some questions that she's going to ask, all sorts of good stuff. Stick with us. And don't forget to go to yourlifeafterwork.com for more. We'll take a break and be right back.
Welcome to Consider This with Big Joe Clark. Joe is a certified financial planner with more than 28 years of experience in the financial services industry. He serves as the managing partner of the Financial Enhancement Group, LLC, and also taught financial planning at Purdue University for 7 years. The Financial Enhancement Group is an SEC-registered investment advisory firm based in Indiana with more than $200 million in assets, serving clients in more than 20 states. Indiana offices are located in Anderson, Fishers, Lafayette, and Rensselaer, as well as Sonoma County, California. This show is for educational purposes, and you're strongly encouraged to consult your advisor regarding your individual issues and opportunities. Joe can be reached at 800-928-4001. 4001. You can find more information about Joe and the Financial Enhancement Group at yourlifeafterwork.com. Enjoy the show, and remember to consider this.
Well, good morning and welcome to Consider This. I'm Joe Clark.
I'm Sherry Contos.
Very happy to have you along.
We are.
You know, we were talking about this football event that occurred last weekend. You know,
Yes.
as diehard Colts fans, I spent 13 years with season tickets at the Colts.
Yeah,
I raised my kids at the Hoosier Dome.
of course. Yes.
And we went to the Luke for the first year that it was there, and the first season rather. Seats weren't real good. I realized my comfy chair at home was a little bit better, and so we started hanging out there. But
Yeah.
but here's the reality: just to keep everything in line with the football analogy.
Okay.
I serve on Ed Slott's board, and if you don't know the name Ed Slott, he is the largest raiser of money for PBS in the nation ever, and he's the IRA guru of gurus. And Sherry, what we've talked about on the show before. That when you go to see a CPA, they spend a lot of money on research of particular tax codes and everything else.
Right.
I can't emphasize enough for most of us how important having a great CPA is to do that tax reporting. We work with some wonderful, great, stupendous people. But when you get to the IRA part, it really says consult an expert.
Right. Of course.
Now, one of the things that Ed has taught me,
Mhm.
and you challenged this during the break, which was
Yes.
important.
Okay.
One of the things Ed has taught me is it does not matter what the score is at halftime.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter what it is at the end of the third quarter.
Right.
The only thing that matters is when you win the game.
Yes.
And the Patriots clearly, I know it's painful, agonizing.
Stop.
I know that, but the Patriots clearly proved that last Sunday night as they beat the Atlanta Falcons.
True.
Now, the reality is for retirement, it doesn't matter how much you save and accumulated
Right.
if you can't get the money out correctly. That's what we call distribution.
Right.
There's a reason why my website is called yourlifeafterwork.com, right?
Mhm.
Your Life After Work. It's about how do you get the money out. For 29 years of my life, I have spent helping people figure out how to get it out.
Mhm.
Now, you had a question at the break.
Well, yeah. I mean, the analogy is you can look at it two ways. You can lose it. You can have a lead and lose it, or you can come back. So my question is, financially, can you really come back if you haven't done the groundwork, if you haven't saved, if you haven't done the investments, if you haven't set your IRAs up right? Can you really come back like they did in the game?
That's a great question. It is very difficult to come back and score 60 points if you didn't start saving until age 60.
Right.
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 However, there are remedies and there are things to fix. So
Mhm.
you go through 3 phases of finance, and we're going to talk about blended families on this segment.
Okay.
So
Good.
this is a very important conversation for people to get in their heads.
Mhm.
You're going to go through 3 distinct finance phases of finance, and show you what happens when you get a statement in the mail, whether you're 25, 45, or 65, or 85.
Mhm.
People tend to look at that statement the same way. They look at it and they look down at the bottom and they go, how much is it worth? Right?
Right.
And what you really need to identify is what phase of finance you're in. So we go through 3 phases. The first one is the accumulation phase. That's where we're putting money in. What you already have saved matters, but what you're adding really matters more.
Okay.
There's 2 objectives in accumulation, just 2.
Mm-hmm.
One is saving the right percentage of your income
Mm-hmm.
to be able to replace your retirement, to be able to fund your retirement, if you will. Then the second one is, are we building tax diversification? That means, are we building money that is taxable, money that is tax deferred, probably in a 401k or a 403b? And are we building money that's tax free? That's your Roth money that's out there. And a lot of you that are listening to the show are of the age where you didn't have the opportunity to necessarily save inside of a Roth. When I deal with some of my professors at Purdue or Ball State, I may have $2 million in a 403b, and it's all tax deferred. And you guys hear the show and you go, Joe, I really messed up. No, you didn't. You didn't have an opportunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's now my job to fix that at the stage that you're in. The second stage that you go to is preservation, Sherry, and that's when you're still saving money,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not as important as the money that you've already saved. In other words, you've got $500,000 or $1 million of the nest egg saved up and accumulated.
Yeah.
But and you're adding $20,000 to it a year. right? So what you've already saved matters more than what you're adding to it.
Right. So do we know, is there a magic step where you go from one to the other?
No.
It's just kind of
because we never know when God's going to call us home.
Well, yeah.
We don't know how much money we're going to make in the future. So
Right.
there's a lot of things. Intuitively, it shows up.
You kind of know.
But from a preservation standpoint, which is what that phase is, it is the only time average return matters, and that is really, really critical to get.
Okay.
Now, that next stage that you're going to go to is the one that most of us have not been to yet.
Right.
Now, Sherry, as you know, we have 10,000 people a day turning age 65. That started
know.
July of last year of 2016. 10,000 people a day are turning age 65. We have now moved into the world of distribution.
Yeah.
It's how do I get the money out? Now, I will tell you, if you're talking to a financial advisor and they use the word average return, and it's simultaneously you're talking to you about distribution. In other words, how do I get the money out? Just turn around and walk away because they do not understand math. I can show you unequivocally. You can have a lower rate of return with less volatility and have more money at the end than you can with a higher rate of return with increased volatility. It's just the way math works. And I have Six Sigma engineers. I've got over 100 engineers that I take care of. You know, these people know more about math than I'm ever going to be able to spell, let alone learn, right? And the reality is they still don't get the distribution challenge because it's so far from being intuitive.
Right.
It's off the charts. This doesn't make any sense. Average return has to matter. No, the two things we have to pay attention to in distribution are the volatility, number one, and that's especially from point to point of distribution. And number two is the tax rate you pay on the average dollar you pull out. If we can control those, we are in great shape, right? So you asked the question, can a person ever come back?
Come back,
Right?
yeah.
I can't take you at 60 back to the starting gate
Right,
and fix
no.
you. But what I do with a lot of 55-year-olds who said, Joe, I came from a blended family. I went through a nasty divorce. I lost my first wife. I've never been married. What do I do now? Right? And so here is the key and critical thing about retirement. Sherry, darling,
Yes.
I do not have to replace your income at retirement.
No.
Now, everything on the internet you're going to read, most of the shows you're going to hear on the radio, almost everybody that's out there tells you that you need to replace 70% of your income. It sounds splendid.
So what?
Right?
So why?
It sounds wonderful because we're academics. When I was a professor at Purdue, we're taught to study the average person. Sherry,
Sure.
you are unique.
I am.
You are individual. And so is everybody that's listening to the show. And what I have to do is to replace your standard of living, not your income. So at 60 years old, if I get you to start saving money for the first time in your entire life, two things happen. One, you're saving money. You will have some put away. It may not be as much as we would ideally like.
Right.
It may not be enough to meet the Patriots. It may not be enough to keep up with the Joneses, right?
Right.
But we've got you started on a plan. Secondly, if you're saving money, Sherry, you're not spending it today.
Right. Yeah.
Which means your standard of living is not there today.
I see what you're saying.
So my brother's in Haiti the day after the earthquake hits because that's what my brother does, right?
Right.
And so he's down there taking care of people, and these Haitians are whistling. They're singing praise songs and happiness. And you know why? It's because they didn't have anything before the earthquake and they didn't have anything after. The reason retirement gets wrecked for people is because they don't have the capacity to replace their standard of living. It's not because they didn't get to go to Hawaii if they weren't used to going to Hawaii.
Right,
it's not
right,
they didn't get to go to Europe. It's that they didn't get to do the basic things they were used to doing. You've got to replace your standard of living. And yes, even if you're 55, we can still help you with that. Hey, if you're out and about, don't forget to shoot us some email. You can find us at yourlifeafterwork.com. We appreciate your questions and comments. Get signed up for the Market Carver. We'll take a break and be right back.
Welcome to Consider This with Big Joe Clark. Joe is a certified financial planner with more than 28 years of experience in the financial services industry. He serves as the managing partner of the Financial Enhancement Group, LLC. The Financial Enhancement Group is an SEC-registered investment advisory firm based in Indiana with more than $200 million in assets, serving clients in more than 20 states. Indiana offices are located in Anderson, Fishers, Lafayette, and Rensselaer, as well as Sonoma County, California. The show is for educational purposes, and you're strongly encouraged to consult your advisor regarding your individual issues and opportunities. Joe can be reached at 800-928-4001. You can find more information about Joe and the Financial Enhancement Group at yourlifeafterwork.com. Enjoy the show, and remember to consider this.
Well, good morning and welcome back to Consider This. I'm Joe Clark.
I'm Sherry Cantos.
So happy to have you along.
Yes.
Hey, we started the last part of the show talking about blended families, and then we got off onto the sidekick of the Super Bowl and some of the issues that are out there. So let's talk. If you're new to the word blended family, right? Barb and I have been married for 28 years, and our family does not come from one. My mom and dad were married for a long time before my father passed away. Barb's mom and dad have been married for it's the big 50.
Right.
Actually, it's more than that now. So
That's
we
great.
don't come from that. But a blended family very quickly is when two people have been previously divorced and now they're married, and generally they have kids.
From the first marriage.
Right. They have kids.
Right.
So this is where we talk about the 5 critical elements of financial planning.
Okay.
And what I know about human behavior and behavioral finance, I spend a lot of time studying that, is we tend to go toward things that we already feel the most familiar with.
Yes.
And, so if I were to talk about cooking, it's possible that I might have done a cooking show at one point in time in my life.
Really?
Me. And if I did a cooking show and you understand cooking, you are more apt to watch my cooking show than you are to listen to this financial radio show.
Because that's what I know.
Because that's where you feel comfortable.
Right. Okay.
It's in your bailiwick, right? Now, I will tell you, as a big guy, eating is important, right? We all need our nutrients. We all need our food. And if you know where to put in kosher salt, well, maybe it gets a little bit better. But no, seriously, when it comes to the world of finance, there are 5 very critical elements that you have to be aware of at all times. Your life after work, some people call that retirement. After 29 years of doing this, I will tell you most people don't just watch grass grow.
Right.
There's other things that we do. So it's your life after work. Secondly is tax planning. That's something that we blitzkrieg it. It's starting in about the 3rd week in October. From our firm, from the Financial Enhancement Group, you get a letter that says, hey, has any one of these 12 conditions changed over the prior year for either yourself, your kids, or your parents? Right? Because we want to use all 3 tax returns when we can. But my friends, tax planning is something that has to occur before the end of the year. It's not something that you can do, in 2017 for 16, right?
Right.
The only thing that I can do for people now is open up a Roth IRA or a deductible IRA, depending on their situation, for last year. Other than that, you're pretty much done. There's some few retirement deals, but that's it, right? So the third thing then is the investment playbook, right? Based on the situation that we're in today, where should your dollars be invested and to what percentage?
Right. 4th
is life happens. I mean, come on. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly of life. I've done this for 29 years. And so when I only had to deal with my dad dying once.
Right.
Right. But I've dealt with an awful lot of daddies dying. It's 29 years. We'll do that for you.
Right. Yeah.
And so we've been able to build checklists of here's what you do when a kid's getting ready for college. Here's what you do whether you buy or lease a car.
That's great.
Here's what you do when you buy your first home. Here's what you do when you have to put a mother in a nursing home. Here's what you do. It's a checklist of stuff. No. Those are protected things. Those are protected things for the families that we serve. And
sure.
And no, we don't get paid to do that. People ask me all the time, Joe, how much do you charge for financial planning? We do the planning part for free. We get paid as registered investment advisors to manage money.
Right.
So why in the world do we do the planning? Well, it's real simple. 1, I'm an addict. Right.
Yes.
And 2, you will tell your sister, Sherry, you will tell her that this guy in Indiana taught you how to put money in a Roth IRA when your CPA told you you couldn't.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's those kind of conversations that we have that matter. So your life after work, the tax planning, the investment playbook, the good, the bad, and ugly of life. And then the 5th is a legacy plan.
Yep.
It's where does it all go? And here's what you need to understand, my friends. Any one of those 5 areas can derail the entire thing.
Okay.
Regardless of how much you accumulated, right? And regardless of no matter how well you understood investing. when it's time to take money out of that side, out of the 401k or out of the IRA, it may sound good, it may feel good to have $2 million or $1 million inside of that IRA and the 401k. But when you go to take it out and your CPA says, oh, by the way, you thought you needed $8,500 a month for your standard of living, you really need $13,000 because you got to pay taxes on every dadgum dime. See, if you've been working with an advisor for a year, even though you don't understand taxes, my job is to make sure that we're maximizing those first two brackets, the 10 and the 15% bracket.
Yeah.
Right. And then we're creating efficiencies by the time you get to the 25% bracket. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I can't do that with earned income. I can't do that with, you're working at Lilly or you're making $200,000 a year doing what you do. We're going to have to pay taxes on that. What I'm talking about is making sure that we're protecting that retirement account. So now we have our blended family.
Yeah, that's what
right?
I was going to say.
So
yep.
you've asked me if you can get caught up in how it works, but the answer is if I'm saving, I'm still protecting and reducing my standard of living, so I got a better chance. Now we've got Tom and Jane are married, and the most critical thing that I have to get people out of once they've re-engaged, once they've been married,
okay,
I have to get people out of silo investing. Now this happens to all people.
You mean the married couple?
Right. In
Okay.
Indiana, we know what a silo is, right? It keeps
Right.
the corn away from the beans, right?
Yes.
Silo holds one thing. And what people are prone to do, even, Barb has been able to stay at home and take care of the kids, so we're blessed in that regard. But, let's say Barb works somewhere and she's got her 401k. She's a teacher, so let's say it's a 403b.
Okay.
And I've got my 401k at the Financial Enhancement Group.
Right.
And what happens is people tend to look at my 401k and they look at her 403b without putting them together, without blending them, if you will. Right?
Literally blending them?
No, what happens inside of a 401k, so here at the Financial Enhancement Group, we're money managers, right? I'm a registered investment advisor. I've got the best 401k going, right?
Right, yeah,
It's what we set up for the companies we take care of.
Yep.
But believe me, I've got the best
That's
401k.
what- yeah.
There are no mutual funds. It's all exchange traded funds, and it has every option that my team and I need to be able to maximize the opportunity on the market. Most people don't. I walk in to look at 401ks and they've got a bunch of American funds, mutual funds, or they've got they've got AUL, they got an insurance company that's taking care of their 401k, or they work for the federal government and the choices aren't that good. So let's just pretend you're a federal employee,
Okay.
right? And you've got this thing called the G Fund, right?
Okay.
The G Fund, this is real, by the way.
Yeah.
The G Fund is, it trades like it's a short-term bond because you can get money out of it any time,
Okay.
right? But it's actually the rate that it earns, the coupon payment, is equal to all of the outstanding treasury debt in the country. So some of it's 20 years, some of it's 10 years, some of it's 5 years, but you can get the money anytime. I can't, at the Financial Enhancement Group, I can't buy a bond fund that touches that. I can't find a bond ETF that touches that.
Okay.
So if you were my wife and you were a government employee, all of the fixed income exposure that I had would be inside of
Yours.
your account, because that G Fund is the whopper. It's the Mac Daddy,
It's the-
right?
Yeah.
And I would have more equity exposure in mine. It's a blended family.
You look at it together.
You got to look at investments as a blended investment where I want to do the best that I can in the situation that I am with what the good Lord has given me opportunities to have and put in front of me, right?
Yeah.
I want to do the best and be the best with what I have. I can't create options, but I can certainly look at the options that I have and go, okay, this is the one that makes most sense for me and my family, right? Now, there's a lot to blended families. We didn't even touch the estate planning side or anything
Right.
else. My point is this: any one of those 5 areas can get you into trouble. Talking about the investment one is the easiest. For the next few weeks, we'll talk about each one of these segments so you have an idea what's going on.
Good.
Hey, check out the website, yourlifeafterwork.com. Get signed up for the Market Carver and shoot me your questions. We'll take a break and be right back.
Welcome to Consider This with Big Joe Clark. Joe is a certified financial planner with more than 28 years of experience in the financial services industry. He serves as the managing partner of the Financial Enhancement Group, LLC. The Financial Enhancement Group is an SEC-registered investment advisory firm based in Indiana with more than $200 million in assets, serving clients in more than 20 states. Indiana offices are located in Anderson, Fishers, Lafayette, and Rensselaer, as well as Sonoma County, California. The show is for educational purposes, and you're strongly encouraged to consult your advisor regarding your individual issues and opportunities. Joe can be reached at 800-928-4001. You can find more information about Joe and the Financial Enhancement Group at yourlifeafterwork.com. Enjoy the show, and remember to consider this.
Well, good morning and welcome to Consider This. I'm Joe Clark.
I'm Sherry Contos.
Very happy to have you
Yes.
along. So the title of this part of the show is that not all beneficiaries are the same, which got Sherry to laugh.
I'm like, duh.
So tell me your duh. What do you mean?
Duh. Obviously, they're not. One might be named Sue. One might be named, in my case, Whitney, Keaton. Yeah, they're different.
There you go. And I like to use my brother and I right
Okay.
now. I will tell you, my brother was a pastor for years, and now John is in corporate America.
Wow.
Right? So it's kind of changed the world. So
I
we're going to
guess.
talk about my brother as a teacher
Okay.
and as a preacher, not as the corporate brother that he is. So you got Joe and John. We're the second Joe and John of the Clark regime. There was another one fought in the Spanish-American War back in the 1800s. So we're Joe and John.
Joe and John.
Two, right? We're squared. Not all beneficiaries are the same. And what do I mean by that?
Mhm.
Well, first of all, I'm 4 inches taller,
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
but that has nothing to do with this conversation.
Right. I figured.
What happens is, and I'm going to go to my lovely mother, and the reason that I'm in the industry is I had 29 public educators on my mom's side of the family. My wife, my brother, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins. It is the profession. It is what
Yeah.
we do, except me.
Yeah.
And I didn't.
Well, you do.
And I didn't
mean,
teach. Well, I do, but I didn't teach. I didn't go into public education because I watched all of this education. I watched all these degrees from Ball State University, and what happened as a 5 and 6 and 10 and 12 and 14-year-old kid growing up in Muncie is they turned my electricity off a lot. Mom and dad knew nothing about money,
Yeah.
and they had all the education. They were good people.
Sure.
They just didn't understand how to manage money.
Wow. And they
And-
were teachers?
Mom was.
Mom,
And,
okay.
and that drove me to wanting to help people better understand what in the world was going on with their money, right?
Right.
So fast forward, now mom's 70 and change, and she's got a little bit of money that, I finally helped her, save up, and she ended up with the state of Indiana, and she's got some money that's saved up. And because it's me, and I understand the tax code, right?
Yeah.
I understand the tax code. So, mom's living on Social Security and this itty bitty wee bit of money that comes from the state of Indiana, which means, ladies and gentlemen, that her tax rate is very, very low.
Right.
In fact, her tax rate is almost zero. And that may shock some of you. You may go, "Oh, Joe, that can't be." Ladies and gentlemen, when I talk to you, you're going to get out your tax return. And I'm going to look at 3 lines primarily. Now, I will always pay attention to itemized deductions because there's things off of that sheet, if you itemize, where I can maximize.
So this is when
And-
someone
and-
comes in to see you, they bring their stuff.
And if you're not eligible to itemize, I will make sure that we're able to use the part that you should have been able to itemize in another year so that money is not wasted. And yeah, when anybody comes to see me, I won't talk to them without the 1040.
Yeah.
People bring their investment statements because they think we're here to talk about investing.
Right.
Right? Markets go up and down. I get paid to manage money.
Right.
I won't tell you that it's not our love and in what we do, but here's what I know 29 years later, when you send a check to the IRS, it ain't coming back.
Right.
Right? My job is to make sure that we don't give them over a lifetime, not over 1 year, but over a lifetime, that we don't give them more money than what we have to give them.
Right.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
that is the key. So I'm going to ask you what's in your tax return, and I'm going to look at line 7. That's going to tell me what your earned income is. I'm going to look at line at the bottom of page 1. It's going to tell me what your adjusted gross income is. We're going to study your itemized deductions, but the number that I'm really going to go to, Sherry, is line 43. And that's going to tell me, after all of your exemptions, all of your deductions, all of the credits we get to people who don't make a lot of money,
Right.
that's going to tell me what you actually pay the federal government. And this may shock you, but I have got, I don't know, probably 50 people that I take care of that have more than $1 million in accounts that came to see me And when I saw them, their taxable rate was 0.
Huh.
In other words, they had the money in the IRA. Nobody wants to pay the IRS any money.
Right.
They had $1 million in their IRA, and they were plumb tickled.
To not be paying
Their
any tax.
CPAs were proud. I mean, their mothers would have been proud. They would have put gold stars as opposed to scarlet letters. I mean, they were just plumb. They felt so good about life because they didn't have to pay it. In fact, most of our retired clients pay more to the state of Indiana than they do to the federal government.
Yes.
Right? Now, here's the catch. Not all beneficiaries are the same. So let's go back to my little brother.
Yes.
Right? And pretending he's back to the preacher days.
Mm-hmm.
His income, in case you don't know, preachers don't get paid a lot. His income was very low. I've been in the financial services world for 29 years. There's 19 people on my team. You know, we've got offices in several different states. You know, we've been blessed.
Right. Yeah.
My tax rate is not low. Okay.
No.
So John and I are different in terms of that tax rate.
So what you're saying is the same amount of money given to each one of you would generate a different liability in terms of taxes.
But it depends on where we're talking about that money coming from.
Okay.
So mom's got an IRA. Her tax rate was at 0. I taught my mom how to convert as much money as she possibly could and still stay in the 10% tax bracket because neither John or I are in the 10% bracket. So we take money out of the IRA every year up to what that 10% bracket is. It doesn't affect her Medicare, Part B premium. It doesn't affect how much taxes are on her Social Security. Boom, 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 right?
Right.
We net this out. We can do these. We know things, right? We can
Right.
do these
We
things.
know things.
Right? So we net it out so that there's no difference for her, but now she has money in a Roth IRA.
Okay.
Now, what does my sweet, loving mother do? She loves her 2 boys, right?
Right. Oh, yeah.
And, I'm 50, John's 45, and so I'm 50% beneficiary on her IRA, John's 50% beneficiary on her IRA, and the same as the Roth.
Okay.
And I look at her when mom comes in, I go, Mom, we've talked about this, right? My tax rate is much higher than John's.
Mm-hmm.
You should give me the Roth because it's already been taxed free. It's already
Right.
been taxed, so it's going to come to me tax free, right? And John should get more of the IRA. Now, this doesn't have to be a 50-50 split. I'm not trying to cheat my little brother.
Right,
I
right,
love
right.
my little brother.
Right, yeah.
I hate the IRS, right? So let's understand the rules that are here.
Right.
So yes, John gets more cash than I get.
Because he's going to pay more.
He's going to pay less.
Well, I
But
mean,
it's going to be taxable.
right,
So
right.
net,
No.
my brother is able to get the same amount of money that he was before.
Mhm.
I'm able to get more than I would have before because the IRS isn't
not
going to be
gonna
involved
take it.
inside of the Roth. And if you really want to get crafty, I will help you net it out so you wind up with the same, and the only person that loses is the IRS. Here's my point, ladies and gentlemen. Not all beneficiaries, not all circumstances are the same.
Good point.
And so when we sit down and we name beneficiaries, yes, it's usually our spouse. Mine's Barb. Yours is your spouse. Yes, your beneficiary is usually your spouse. But when we net these things out, we want to make sure that they're serving a purpose for the best transition of money that we can possibly find. When people come and say, Joe, it's time to talk on the legacy plan, I teach them the difference between a will and a trust. I help them understand how to fund the trust. I take the experience I have with trust written in more than 25 states. I can't give you one of those trusts, but I can certainly talk to your attorney and say, hey, what about this idea?
This
What
is
about
what we need to
that
have in
idea,
that
right?
trust. Yeah.
And I can help make sure that the beneficiaries match the situation. Now, do you know what all your kids' incomes are? No. But it's why I always ask what they do. I mean,
Yeah.
there are some standards that I can use. Sometimes you're in the know.
You
right?
might know. Just ask
You
him.
might know.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't.
Yeah.
But I want to take the data. I want to take the information that I can and set it up best for you and your family to be able to maximize that situation. Understand that not all beneficiaries are the same. But when we look at this stuff, it has to be a coordinated effort for you to have the least amount of fees and expenses and for you to be able to maximize the gift that you're making to your family. Hey, for more, go to our website, yourlifeafterwork.com. Send me an email and sign up for the Market Carver. I'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Consider This with Big Joe Clark. Joe is a certified financial planner with more than 28 years of experience in the financial services industry. He serves as the managing partner of the Financial Enhancement Group, LLC. The Financial Enhancement Group is an SEC-registered investment advisory firm based in Indiana with more than $200 million in assets, serving clients in more than 20 states. Indiana offices are located in Anderson, Fishers, Lafayette, and Rensselaer, as well as Sonoma County, California. The show is for educational purposes, and you're strongly encouraged to consult your advisor regarding your individual issues and opportunities. Joe can be reached at 800-928-4001. You can find more information about Joe and the Financial Enhancement Group at yourlifeafterwork.com. Enjoy the show, and remember to consider this.
Welcome back to Consider This. I'm Joe Clark.
I'm Sherry Contos.
Very pleased and honored to have you along. Hey, if you want to know more about what's going on with the show or you've got questions, don't forget you can always find the other segments if you miss something at yourlifeafterwork.com. Get signed up for our market carver and just find out what's going on with the blues, right?
Yep.
So here's the deal. When I always say I protect the names to protect the innocent.
Yes.
And part of what this show comes from is built on two things. One, it's questions that you send to me. It is things that I read about of, I can't believe that actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true stories of families who come in to visit me.
Okay.
Right? So I have to change the names to protect the innocent. So we're going to call them Ray and Jane Donovan.
Ray and Jane. Okay.
Ray and Jane Donovan.
Got it.
So Jane is in her mid-50s.
Okay.
Ray just turned 60.
Okay.
Right. I wish I didn't have to protect the name of the not so innocent. That would be the broker.
Ooh.
But it is life. So
Okay.
one of the things, Sherry, that I have told you over the years of doing the show, this is the 20th year for both the Financial Enhancement Group and for the radio show. One of the things that I like to tell people is that things change, right? When you make mistakes, you have to fess up to the mistake and fix it. It
Right.
does no good to bury the head in the sand.
Makes it worse.
There's I saw this show last weekend. It said, when you're going through hell, just keep on going.
Yeah, keep digging.
No, that is not what we do in the financial world, right? When you have found yourself in a predicament, when you recognize that an error has been made, to bury your head in the sand or to continue to go is not the right answer.
Yeah.
Now, I taught my students at Purdue, and I will tell you listening to this show, for me to gain a client, a new family that we take care of, takes 4 different things. The first one is, do you like me and trust me?
Yes.
And because of Mr. Madoff, because of Mr. Shrinker, who jumped out of the perfectly good airplane, because of all of the crooks and idiots in the world, the other 3 no longer matter. Now, what should matter are the other 3. The second thing is, do you think I know what I'm talking about? The third is, do you understand my process? And the fourth is, do you need my process? That's really what you should be evaluating besides like and trust. As a fiduciary, I have a duty of loyalty. That means that I've got to take care of you, Cherry, as if your money were my money and we were in the same situation. But I also have a duty of care. That's why I'm a certified financial planner. It's why I go 3 times a year to sit and discuss tax rulings with Ed Slott and his company. And I guess it's twice a year now, but why I go to those meetings with 300 of my friends to sit in those rooms and be absorbed, by this stuff. You've got to make sure that you've got both sides. What happens to most people is, one, they take I don't want to put all of my eggs in one basket. And so many times, instead of having one financial advisor, one certified financial planner, they have 3 or 4 relationships. Right? That is rarely very good for you.
Yeah.
If you're going to be cheated, let one of them do it. Because
Yeah,
at least
yeah.
he knows all of the places
So like
you've
they
been
put
cheated.
different accounts with different people?
No, yes. And so in this case, Ray and Jane came in, and they
Okay.
had an annuity that they had bought from a quote-unquote friend,
Okay.
somebody they had some familiarity with,
Sure.
somebody that they knew in their mind would not hurt them,
Okay.
right? And so I think that's where our default is. That's where the like and trust comes
Right.
from. I don't know anything about finance, so I'm going to go to somebody who has the licenses,
And I like
says
them.
they're in the business, and only because I like them and trust them.
Right.
Because I believe that it goes both ways. We have drinks together. We golf together. We maybe even went on vacation together.
Wow.
We go to the same church.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I know this person provides that duty of loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now the problem is we don't know about the duty of care. We don't know really what their knowledge base is.
Yeah.
And trust me, my friends, there's 2 things. One, a lot of people are in the wrong business model, right? They're in a world where they have to sell stuff. And
Right.
if you're a painter and you've only got red paint on your palette, everything turns red. If you're an insurance man, there's a good chance everything's going to be life insurance and annuity driven. They're probably not talking to you about a Roth conversion.
Right. Yeah.
So let's keep going here. So they've
yeah.
got one guy that sold them an annuity.
Okay.
And worse than that, he came back in the middle of the annuity deal and said, wait, Sherry, I can make it better. And so he moved the annuity from one company into another type of contract. Now, he got paid again on the deal.
When he moved it, he got paid again?
He got paid again. But the guys already like him and trust him, and there's a relationship, and so they don't stop to ask the questions. They don't stop to say, hey, what's wrong? I already like you and trust you. If you're telling me I should do this, what do I know?
Right.
Raise a professor. He's not this is not his cup of tea.
Right.
And so he does what he's told. And the bad part is he gets hurt. And you may be listening to the show going, well, Joe, that's exactly why I'm at Merrill Lynch or exactly why I'm at LPL, which are big companies. The problem is if you read investment news, you will see all of the citations against the wirehouse industry, all of the fines and regulations for unsupervised selling of annuities at Wells Fargo. You will see all of these things if you read them. Being at a big company ought to control somebody's behavior. You would think they would have the checks and balances in place. You would think if you knew them in their church, they wouldn't hurt you. But if they don't have that duty of care, if they don't have the knowledge base, they don't even necessarily know they're hurting you, right? They're telling you what their managers have told them to do. And then you wind up with a nail in your foot, right? You're the one that winds up in trouble.
Yeah. So in this case, was the guy just not knowing, or was he?
We don't know. We don't know.
We don't know.
And there's no way for me to know. But I want to move on. He also had a brokerage account.
Okay.
So they had inherited some money, and Jane had about $300,000 that was put inside of a retail brokerage account.
Okay.
So what all that means is it's already been taxed.
Mm-hmm.
There are some investments, right? So they may have capital gains if they sell some of the investments. They may have capital losses if they sell some of the investments, but this is not IRA money, right? So I'm looking at Ray and Jane Donovan's stuff, and I go, okay, here's this annuity. Here's this brokerage account. Where's your Roth IRA? And they look at each other, and they look at me, and they look at each other, and they look at me, and they go, well, Joe, we don't have a Roth IRA. And I go, what do you mean you don't have a Roth IRA? How in the world in 2017 can anybody have a brokerage account
And not
that's
have.
already been after tax? How can they have earned income? That's income on line 7, right? How can they not be above the $183,000 to $186,000 range in adjusted gross income, which means they've qualified for a Roth? They've qualified for a Roth IRA every year since 2010, every single year. They qualified for a Roth IRA all the way back, if you want to know the truth, to 2005.
Wow.
So why in the world, she's 55, he's 60, why in the world has the broker, this is a question, Sherry,
Okay.
TikTok,
Okay.
why in the world has the broker not taken $6,500 a year? If you can put $5,500 in a Roth if you're under 50,
Mm-hmm.
$6,500 a year if you're over. Why is the broker not taking $6,500 out of the $300,000 account? I'm not talking about him saving any more money.
Right.
Why didn't he take the $6,500 out of the account and open up a Roth IRA and merely make the transfer of money? Why not?
Right. Because I don't know. Why would it? Because he doesn't know?
Because he doesn't get paid on accounts that are that small.
Oh.
Nobody wants accounts that small. It is destructive for a firm to have accounts that small. Whether I have $1 million account with you or whether I have a $5,000 account with you, I'm paying $60 a year for the downloads that have to come so that I can supervise the account. The bottom line is they should have $100,000 of tax-free money in their account and not $300,000 that's exposed to taxes every year. And it's because of the business model they're involved in or the lack of care, not of loyalty. They like the guy. They go on vacation with the guy. Hey, folks, you've been listening to Consider This. If there's anything at all we can do to be of service, don't hesitate to give us a call. We appreciate you tuning in. Go to the website, yourlifeafterwork.com. And like I said, if there's anything we can do, let us know.
Welcome to Consider This with Big Joe Clark. Joe is a certified financial planner with more than 28 years of experience in the financial services industry. He serves as the managing partner of the Financial Enhancement Group, LLC. The Financial Enhancement Group is an SEC-registered investment advisory firm based in Indiana with more than $200 million in assets, serving clients in more than 20 states. Indiana offices are located in Anderson, Fishers, Lafayette, and Rensselaer, as well as Sonoma County, California. This show is for educational purposes, and you're strongly encouraged to consult your advisor regarding your individual issues and opportunities. Joe can be reached at 800-928-4001. You can find more information about Joe and the Financial Enhancement Group at yourlifeafterwork.com. Enjoy the show, and remember to consider this.
Well, good morning and welcome back to Consider This. I'm Joe Clark.
I'm Sherry Cantos.
Happy to have you along. This would, of course, be Sherry's favorite
My
segment.
favorite. It's when I get to talk. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, that's not even. I'll let you talk
Oh
more.
my gosh.
I'll
That
let you
was
talk
mean,
more.
wasn't that
So
mean?
what is the name of the segment, Sherry?
What says Joe?
And what says Joe about what?
What says Joe about whatever is on my mind at this week? No, it's financial questions.
So we
that-
don't cheat. Sherry tries to cheat. Every week she comes in and she goes, "Do you want to know what I'm going to talk about?" And I go, "No, Sherry, that would be cheating."
It would
See,
be cheating.
This is kind of the fun, exciting thing for me. And
for you. For me, I worry about it because what if I don't stump you? I want to stump you every week.
Well, good
See?
luck with that.
I know. Good luck. Okay. Well, so here's what happened.
Okay.
Here's what happened. This is like the millennial financial planning question.
Okay.
All right.
So now we're in
So-
stumping ground here because I'm not a millennial.
I know you're not,
A
but
couple times removed.
it's kind
apparently.
of going back to one of the things we talked about earlier today. Can you make up for lost ground? Can you come back?
How can a millennial have lost time?
Well, isn't that true? How can they? But here's what happened. My kids are in that age group, and they all got together for a Super Bowl party to watch the horrible game this past weekend. And it was funny because the whole conversation, it's all these other millennial people with little kids, and they have houses, and they're not like struggling millennials, really. I mean, they
no,
have houses.
if they have their own homes, they're not.
They
They're
have
not
their own
living in
homes,
their
they
parents'
have
basement.
kids, they're not exactly. But they feel behind. They're like early 30s and they feel like they haven't saved enough. They're on the right plan, whatever. So the conversation was this, and it wasn't just by my kids, it was by everyone else there. They're thinking we need to kind of do something to get ahead of the game savings wise and retirement wise because we're behind. So how about we take out a HELOC
Home equity line of credit.
on our home
Mm-hmm.
and buy an investment property?
Mm-hmm.
And they batted that back and forth. And a couple of them have advisors.
Bantering's good.
Bantering is good. And the advisors in this particular case that they had said, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Now, I know because my own kids, the reason for doing this is not because they are so in love with investment properties. It's because they think perhaps it's a way to make up some lost ground.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Interestingly enough, the pastor this week talked in I think it's Matthew 27 or 28. In there, it essentially says that there will be people who are prophets, but are not necessarily in your best interest.
Okay.
Right. So as you go through the journey of life,
Mm-hmm.
You will have plenty of people who try to give you guidance.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Some are paid for that. Some are not.
Okay.
Some are truly have your best interest at heart. Some truly have their billfold at heart.
Okay.
Right? So one of the reasons that we pray for discernment is the ability to differentiate between a prophet that knows and cares and one who doesn't. You know, in our industry, number one, I would tell your kids, only deal with a legal fiduciary and
Sure.
ask them that question and have them sign the paper and prove that they have the ability of care, right? So the duty of loyalty means that they like and trust them,
Right.
So the business model says, are you a legal fiduciary?
Right.
And then the duty of care is, how do I know you know what the heck you're talking about? And having a securities license isn't the answer, right?
Exactly.
So remember, my duty of care and loyalty are to take care of you as if the money were my own and we were in the same situation.
Right.
And so it's you have to know. I mean, I have a duty to know what your comfort level of risk really is.
Right.
So can you take equity out of the home and use a home equity line of credit and turn around and invest that money in another property? You can, by the way. Technically, that interest wouldn't be deductible. No CPA asks if mortgage interest is used for another thing, but when you refinance a home or you do a home equity line of credit, if it's not to make the established property even better, technically it's not deductible.
Okay.
Everybody does it, right?
Right,
So
right.
I always want to make sure people know the rules, right? The real story. So can you do that? And the obvious answer is yes, you can, right? You can take the money out of the HELOC. Now, I would never tell somebody to do that.
Really?
Did I tell somebody to do that when I was 30? I did.
Okay.
Did I tell somebody to do that 20 some years ago? I did. Because we were trained to do that. We had
Okay.
not lived through a housing crisis where we watched houses go down by 2/3 in value in Southern California, Nevada, in Arizona,
Yeah.
right, and in Florida. So at that age, at that stage of my life, I've made that mistake. Now, I would never do that again.
Really?
Now, you can turn around and you can go, okay, Joe, how much would you tell my kids to put down on the house? And I always tell them, you put down enough so that you don't have to pay PMI,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So that could be 10%, it could be 20%, depending on the type of property. And other than that, with interest rates this low, I would choose to finance the rest.
But you wouldn't take out.
Now, and again, so what I'm trying to say is, one would argue that's the same thing. I'm not telling them, I wouldn't have told them to put $100,000 down on a house.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
And at the same time, I wouldn't tell them to do the HELOC to pull the money out.
So you would say, don't do an investment property if you don't have the 20%.
No. This isn't the investment part. This is the investment property part. This is, I still have a mortgage on my own home.
Right. Yeah.
As long as I'm able to itemize and deduct it, and as long as the IRS says I can, my mortgage rate is locked in at 2.85. I believe I can make more than 2.85% of my money, or I shouldn't be a money manager, right?
Right.
Is that true every year? No, but is it true on average? Yeah, by a lot.
Right.
So can they now? Should they own an investment property? Is
a whole nother
Is a
question.
whole nother question, right? I don't. I own my office building and I own my house, and I don't like 2:00 in the morning phone calls about plumbing leaks.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I can fix anything, Sherry, with a phone book.
Yeah.
Right. I can't do plumbing. I can't do
Well-
electrical. I don't even paint. I get stuff everywhere.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But I hire people, and so I don't want to own the other property. And your kids need to be aware of that before they say, this is what I want to do. Now,
Yeah.
I've got friends that got a lot of them that do very, very well. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well,
It's
no,
your
I mean,
segment.
because we had a segment once before about investment properties, and really, that's the question I'm getting at is that these are people who are responsible adults in their early 30s that feel like they're behind on savings, and so this is how they're going to make up for it, and that's the premise that I don't know about. That's the premise, and a side question which they also had is they have a car loan, needed a van for the twins, 3 kids now, so they have a car loan for that. And they also have an investment account that they can take money out of for no payment, no charge. So the question is, do we pay off the car loan or do we leave the money in there?
No, because people who have car loans are probably always going to have car loans,
Okay.
right? It's kind of like, do I take the money out of the investment account to pay off all the credit cards?
Right.
And the answer is, in a vacuum, which none of us live in,
Right.
but in a vacuum, of course you take it off. You take it out and do that. The simple formula is, do I believe my investment return will be greater than the interest rate that I pay on the leverage?
Exactly.
That's the simple formula. The reality of life is people will take on more debt and get into more trouble. Once the money leaves the account, it's hard to get it back in.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it really becomes a challenge.
And true or false, saving, like, let's just pick a number, $5,000 at age 30 and leaving it in there. So here was the thing. You don't want to take the $5,000 out now to pay something else off because it's earning. It's
It should
growing.
be
It's
invested correctly. It should
right.
be.
So even if you think I'll pay the car off now and I'll put $5,000 back in over the next, take me a couple of years, but I'll put it back in. It's not worth not worth the same. The $5,000 2 or 3 years from now is not worth the same as $5,000 now.
You still lost the compounding on the growth, and you get into the habit of being able to do that.
Right.
Of taking from today to be able to finance where you are in the future.
Okay.
Hey, you've been listening to Consider This. I'm Joe Clark, along with Sherry Contos. If you've got questions or things that you want to hear about, go to the website, yourlifeafterwork.com. We can sit down. We can have more of these conversations. There's some videos that are there for you. And you can always go back to the radio show, whether it was a segment today that you missed. You can go to iTunes, obviously, and download the show and sign up for the podcast.
Yep.
But you can go to FEG Insights, get my newspaper column, get other things that we've talked about. We're more than happy to have you on there. And while you're there, do not forget to sign up for the Market Carver. It's a video that I send out every single week that I really think you'll enjoy. We'll take a break. Be right back.
Welcome to Consider This with Big Joe Clark. Joe is a certified financial planner with more than 28 years of experience in the financial services industry. He serves as the managing partner of the Financial Enhancement Group, LLC, and also taught financial planning at Purdue University for 7 years. The Financial Enhancement Group is an SEC-registered investment advisory firm based in Indiana with more than $200 million in assets, serving clients in more than 20 states. Indiana offices are located in Anderson, Fishers, Lafayette, and Rensselaer, as well as Sonoma County, California. This show is for educational purposes, and you're strongly encouraged to consult your advisor regarding your individual issues and opportunities. Joe can be reached at 800-928-4001. You can find more information about Joe and the Financial Enhancement Group at yourlifeafterwork.com. Enjoy the show, and remember to consider this.
Good morning and welcome back to Consider This. I'm Joe Clark.
I'm Sherry Contos.
Happy to have you along. So Sherry's telling me in the break that her kids are saying, hey, I'm 31. We're so far behind. Folks, this is not a political show. I don't want to make it a political show. I am going to tell you, though, how the world has changed.
Okay.
And that's that I can't go anywhere without Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or my email going off.
Mm-hmm.
You may find this as an exaggeration, and I apologize. I assure you it's not. I get 300 emails 7 days a week.
Wow.
300. And
Wow.
there are different news sources, different information of what I have to have because I'm the macroeconomist in the firm where I manage what we call the narrative, right? I have to pay attention to the market. I have to pay attention to all those changing tax codes that Sherry gets so frustrated about. I have to take care of the 650 families that we serve. Now, in all fairness, most of those emails I'm copied on, and they actually went to my team, to my paraplanning group. I'm just notified, if you will. Here's my point. Every time your daughter wakes up, the people rarely put on Facebook. There's some people out there. Rarely do they put on Facebook, I'm in debt.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Rarely do they put on there, I really screwed up.
Yeah.
Right? Rarely do they put on there, I had too much wine. Rarely do they do that, right? They're talking about, hey, I'm going to Spain. Baby, life is good.
Yeah.
Hey, we just got this new promotion. We just got this great job, right? It's the same challenge inside of the political environment that we're seeing now. People are going, boy, Trump is really messed up. No, there's all of this media stuff that's this ongoing barrage of information that is self-repeating.
Right.
And whoever you run around with, if you look at your Facebook feed and you tend to run around with people who are not Trump supporters from the very beginning, believe me, you're getting a lot of negativity.
Right.
On the other side, if you were a Trump supporter in the beginning, right, you're probably not getting a lot of that negative feedback. And when it comes to finances, we live in the world of competing with the Joneses, right? We want to keep up. And so whenever one of my friends is posting good things, apparently I'm behind.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I can show you 45-year-olds that have saved $1.5 million already. Yes, you're probably behind. They're also the one of the 700 people that I've met with their age that are anywhere near it.
Sure.
Do not let life get behind. You are you. You are unique. Figure out how to make the most of your journey. Figure out how to be you. That's all you have to be. You're not called to be anything else.
True.
Hey, you've been listening to Consider This. Joe Clark, Sherry Contos. We have a lot of fun on this show. Hope you've enjoyed your time here today. If you've got a question or comment, go to our website. Shoot me an email. Consider this at yourlifeafterwork.com. And have a great week.
Thanks for listening to Consider This with Big Joe Clark. Joe can be reached at 800-928-4001 or via email at bigjoe@yourlifeafterwork.com. The Financial Enhancement Group, LLC, is based at 429 East 14th Street, Anderson, Indiana, 46016. Be sure to check out their website for more information at yourlifeafterwork.com.